Well, good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Jeff Blubaugh. With me today is Sedgwick County Commissioner Pete Meitzner. Welcome, Commissioner. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Always good to see you, friend.
You know, you and I got to spend years together over here in the city, and always appreciated working with you and appreciated your insight. And today I wanted to discuss property taxes with you.
Yeah, the change from being on the city council to the county commission, the county does involve with the appraiser's office and some of the formalities of state law and how that affects properties. And so it's a little bit different than what we did here at the city, but we're working in it.
You know how the public perception is. I'm sure when you were on the city council, people reached out to you about their property taxes and what they were doing, and you always explained to them, we have limited input on that. It is handled over to counties. So this time last year, we did an update on property appraisal prices, and I want to take a chance and provide another update this year. And I know you've got some good information to share for us, so we'll kind of get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had we'll probably talk about this a couple times, but there was a great presentation on February 17th, and we'll reference it on February 17th, just a little, couple months ago. It's an annual report that the county appraiser was required to present to us, and it's very detailed. It's very easy to understand. If you're an appraiser, if you're a county appraiser, those jobs are hard jobs, and there's not very many people qualified because they have to follow state law. And so, but there was a lot of good information, especially the real estate market, as you know, Jeff, has been crazy the last year. And then on top of that, COVID and everything else. So it was a kind of an interesting presentation.
You know, Commissioner, I've never seen anything quite like it. I got my real estate license about 20 years ago. There were around 5,000 active listings in the Wichita Area Realtor Association. And, you look at 5,000 then. Last week, I looked, and Wichita had less than 200 houses for sale. Incredible. So I'm sure you're hearing the stuff out there about people having 30 showings in a day or two and getting $20,000 and $30,000 overpriced. To me, as a real estate professional, the only thing I can come to is just supply and demand, and we just don't have much inventory out there.
Right. Yeah, we got friends that have said, well, we put our house on the market at noon, and at 5 o'clock at night, we already had offer that was a little bit higher than our asking price. So it's a crazy world, and on all prices too, right?
So it's a double-edged sword, because everybody gets all excited, they get a great value of their house, but you're going to get the other end of the sword when you go out and try to buy your next house, because there's going to be limited inventory. I know as the price ranges go up, there's a little bit more inventory out there, but there's just, and I think it correlates back to the recession. We had 50-some developments going on there in the early 2000 to 2008, probably, until the recession. And then a lot of the developers kind of contracted and slowed up on the developments, and they weren't as big to building spec homes and different properties out there. So I know here at the city we're doing a lot of different things. We're looking at a lot of...
In 2011, we helped give a incentive for developers to go build and build some more homes.
Trying to get it back on.
Area Builder Association was saying, we're building 100 homes a year. Now, I think last year, I just looking in 2020, almost 1,500 brand new homes were built. So it's really coming back as far as built new homes.
Right. It's just not meeting that demand, though. I mean, there's just so much demand out there, and it's just really pushing the price. The other side of that is material increases. I've got some contractors working on a small project for me, and this morning I looked on the receipt, a 4x8 piece of 3/4-inch plywood, $75. You could have bought that for under $30 a year ago. So it's just so many people out there, wanting the homes, wanting the construction. I know my own personal philosophy's changed. I used to be big on suburban development, do the developments, expand the city as large as we can. Now I'm more focused on urban infill. You see that, there's so much infrastructure out there as far as the streets, the water, the sewer that's already there. A lot of opportunities, and we're taking a good look at that, and hopefully we can start to increase the inventory both within the city and within the suburbs as well.
And I think that's I think the world the market's going, and locally here, I mean, even these smaller what do you call them, zero lot, but they've already got the infrastructure there. And if you can come up with we can support small growth housing that 'cause it fills a lot of infill. It's good for everything.
For sure.
I did see also that, I was pulling up, we've talked about this, but this is one of the pages of the presentation. The lower black line is today's, is 2020, and the average length of the medium days on market for residential was just at 10 days. So you've already talked about selling the same day. Well, in 2020, it was 10 days overall.
And we were in a scarce market then.
Yeah.
And now our numbers are half that. So
Yeah.
So just looking over some of my notes here. May 1st is when you actually, I think March 1st is the day, isn't that kind of the deadline for sending out the property tax value?
Correct.
And then May 1st is the day that you send out the tax bill. Does that sound about right?
Right. Value notices are mailed out on May 1st. And
Okay.
they only mail out if your property tax increased or decreased.
Okay.
If your property tax was, I think, within 1% or 2%, I probably have it here somewhere.
Okay.
If you didn't get if you don't receive a mailer, then you don't have one.
Okay. I think you've shared with me before that you inspect each property individually about every 6 years. Does that
Right.
sound about right?
Yep, yep.
That's a lot of property to go
And
through. I've seen the county truck drive by my house, and is it kind of like Google where they drive around and they just kind of slowly take a picture of the area? Is that?
Well, actually, the technology has helped. The aerial technology has really helped increase on that. And some of the things that people think about. Well, God, I got reappraised because I got a new driveway. Well, that driveways and air conditioning and just regular maintenance is not part of the reappraisal value. So it's really the room additions and swimming pool or you put in a big circle drive or something. So some of that regular maintenance is not there. I just found here, if you're for this year, there's 79% of the residential parcels had an increase in value. The typical increase in value was 6%. 2% of the properties had a decrease in value, and the typical change on that was 5%. And I can tell you that what I've learned is that by state law, the appraiser has to have a goal of being within the 90 percentile of the value of what the sales are going on. So rarely is he over 10% either way, is what I'm trying to say. So if you got a 100,000 house, that appraiser is supposed to be with the appraised value is supposed to be about 90,000 up to 110, and all of them we're close to about 89 to 90% when he tries to reevaluate these every 6 years.
So what are some of the reasons that a property would decrease in value? I would assume maybe conditions probably part of it.
2 or 3%. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, or you might have had an area that had some flood issues that were adjacent to it that caused the values of homes around there to go down in value, but not very much. There's not very many because people feel like they're investing in their home and they usually go up in value, especially right now.
Sure. Well, homeowners and property owners have reached out to me. I'm sure they've reached out to you in regard to some of the rising property taxes. It is a direct correlation to the value of the property.
Right.
And people can appeal their appraisal at sedgwickcounty.org. I think we're past the window for that. If I'm under the understanding, I thought they mailed them out March 1st and you had a 30-day window. Are we past that, or can you still appeal a property value?
Well, I think you can still, it seemed like I got a message. I think you can still, up to June 1st, it looks like.
Okay. So I think that's a little longer than they normally give you.
On May 15th, the informal meetings begin. So if you file an appeal, then they start the informal meeting. I would say that Mark Clark is our county appraiser. I think in the past, from what in our history, Jeff, there was a a more difficult stigma that you just can't get past first base on appeals. But I think Mark and his staff have really learned. Well, he's our new appraiser as of a couple years ago. He's acting appraiser, and so he's taken a kind of a customer friendly. They get a call, and it's not just a carte blanche that, hey, thanks for the call. They really are looking at your value and explaining why your value may obviously have gone up, and nobody appeals it if it's gone down. But they're doing a little more customer friendly. And I've had some feedback, some emails from a couple people I know, but even a couple people that I don't know that have said, hey, it was actually a pleasant experience. Everybody's worried it's going to be a bad one,
Right.
which I think it used to be a bad one.
Right.
So,
You know, I've been through the appeal process myself a few times, and my experience is early on, they look for low-hanging fruit. Do we have the right measurement for your house? Do you have some kind of conditions? Is your roof been damaged? Did you experience some kind of flooding? Have you got hail damage? Have you got something that wasn't fixed on the property? It seems like we get into those variables first, and then I believe the county has a handful of comparable sales they use for that area, and then they're pretty precise on the different attributes to your house. Does it have this? Does it have that?
Square footage.
How many bathrooms are there? What's the
Right.
square footage?
Bedrooms, bathrooms.
Is this a
Yeah.
porch or is this living square footage? I mean, they really do try to have mathematical or statistical
Right,
answers
right.
for everything.
Exactly.
Rather than, now I think there is some opinion. I think they grade it to some extent, like an ABC or something, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly on that, Jeff, but you're right. They are trying to use true data, as you referenced. It's really, and that's really comforting, I think, should be to the people that are appealing, or when you go in there. And the information is available yourself to do a little homework. You can look at an address, and you can look at that same street, go to your neighbors and see what theirs are. And an anomaly might be everybody else has only went up 1 or 2% in value. Why'd mine go up 8 or 9? And if you've really not done anything, those are valid presentations. I'd call them arguments or appeals. But you also might find out, is it worth it? Well, mine only went up 1% and everybody else went up 9 or 10.
Right.
So then you might say, okay, well, so you can make a judgment yourself, and because all that's public information, and I think even the square footage and all that's in there. So.
I get that call from people. You probably got it before. Hey, I checked my 5 other neighbors, and I'm the most expensive. If they're not, you don't hear anything from them. But,
Exactly.
but you know, that's something that. One thing I think that adds to the issue that is changes the market, and you guys reflect that change as well. Is 15 years ago, you didn't hear the word remodel, because people just went and built another house. And we bought this house, we lived in it for 7 to 10 years, we bought that house. Now as things go up, well, let's just add 500 square feet. Let's add a bedroom, let's add a bathroom. And obviously, those are things through the permitted process where the appraiser has to go back there and reflects the value of that increase or whatever that is.
Right. I would say if you're just, obviously if you're just repainting inside, or you're maybe tearing down a wall, or replacing your bathroom with a new shower or something like that. Those are not building permitted things. So the only thing that triggers is permits and new sales. And the other thing, Jeff, you're talking about. So let's say somebody, what I found out is, let's say you have a fire at your house that basically renders it, you get it's useless for that 6 months or a year or whatever while you've got to rebuild it. You can appeal, and the county, that comes to the county commission. You make an appeal that you want to waive your property tax for a event, like if it was a tornado, or so where your structure is damaged. I can't remember. I think 50%, maybe somewhere like that. And we've done some of that. So people had a $2,000 tax bill. We granted it because they've already paid it usually. So it's extended on to the next year. So you've waived even while you may be moving back in. So you get a break the next year. So that's kind of a nice thing that I didn't realize we could do, which we're doing now. So
What else, Pete? What else do we need to let homeowners, property owners, I know there's different classifications, whether your business, whether it's your personal property, whether it's some kind of recreational property, a second home.
Right.
What else can we do to work through disagreements with the appraiser's office?
Well, I think if it's alarmed, plus you might want to look at it as you take a typical tax statement that you get. Well, it's obviously got the county, it's got the city tax, it's got your school district tax. If you're in an area that might have if specials obviously, but that's a different thing. But it could have a cemetery tax or some little water district tax, things like that. So in that case, I would look at all of them. So then, before you call Jeff Blubaugh to complain about the city's taxes go up, you might see that, hey, wow, I had no idea there's a school bond issue that really drove it up. So you may find that your taxes went up a couple $100, but maybe 180 of that is from just one entity. Well,
Okay.
if you're gonna call your commissioner or your council member, it helps to know, well, what entity really did, because I remember we've talked about not having, not raising the mill levy for
Right.
years. But not raising the mill levy is one thing, but if your house value goes up, then it goes up in value.
So at the city council, we like to say, it's been 25 years since we've raised the mill levy.
Oh, it's
and
29.
We're all proud of ourselves, but
Right.
in reality, the values are pulling that up.
Right.
And there is an increase in the taxpayer, even though we're not physically voting to raise the mill levy. We did get a question here, Pete, asking us, how often can people appeal? You can appeal these every year, can't you?
Yeah, every year.
Okay.
Yeah. I would do if it's, especially if you have an anomaly. I mean, that's where you want to, if you're just, kind of like back when we were talking about our water rates. When we first started on the commission, the water rates, we'd raise it and then maybe lower it or neutral. And then we went under with the city manager and let's just have water rates go up, remember, single digit, 3 or 4% a year, regardless. So businesses could plan, and people could plan. And I think that's proved to be fairly effective. Same thing, if you're looking at your property tax and it's just the appraised value and the tax is only going up incrementally, a couple percent, well, that's, inflation and CPI and all that. But if you see a bump and you can't explain it, I would definitely call and find out. So.
Okay. I certainly appreciate everything you guys are doing over there. It's not an easy task, but it is one that we have to be able to provide to have the infrastructure resources we have in here. Appreciate everything you've worked through, even the changes in the protest. I think right now it's a lot more call-in than it is in person. Do you offer
Right.
both? Or?
Yeah, no, they do it by phone,
Do it by
which has
phone.
been, and it's helpful because we have the technology we just talked about. They can send you what their comparables were about, so you can look at those. I'd say I've had a couple of calls from, out east. We butt up against Butler County, and Butler County has got, as much as conservative as Butler County is, they're not really conservative on their property tax.
Right.
It's pretty high. And I had one individual that bought a business, and when he bought it, his property tax on that business was $19,000 for the year, which sounds good, but he calls me desperate because he got his bill and it was $61,000. And I said, you've got to appeal to, the Butler County Appraiser. And as a matter of fact, if you, I forgot to mention, if you're not happy with that appeal, then you can take it to the state level Court of Appeals. It's probably worth having somebody that knows their business, or maybe even an attorney. But they will reconsider. Sometimes that works. Not often, but if it's a valid deal, but I don't think you're going to get the mess around that maybe was happening in the past.
Is that secondary layer appeal, is that a telephone or is that an in-person?
I think it has been in person for now.
Okay.
I think it's.
I haven't heard how they're handling that now,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate everything, and thank you
Always
very
good.
much.
And how's so the wife and kids,
Yep.
everybody's
Yep,
hanging in there, so.
everybody's happy.
Yeah.
We're just, I know my wife's gathering our change to pay our property taxes here real soon.
Well, you probably ought to rent out that barn for
There
some
you
prom or something like that.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Always good
Commissioner.
to see you.
Thank
friend.
you.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
All right, take care.